Back in July, I watched the movie Piggy from 2022, which, if you don't know, very in-depth deals with the topic of bullying. And thanks to the YouTube channel How to Beat, for the past couple of years, another movie about bullying has been on my radar. But rather than in Piggy, things accidentally going in Sarah's favour, in the final, this is what happens if those who are bullied decide to actively seek revenge on those that bullied them for a single night. But if you don't know anything about the final from 2010, let me quickly fill you in. The final from 2010 is a revenge horror drama. Dane, an awkward student with a deadly vendetta, leads a group of outcasts who plot to avenge the years of humiliation they faced by the popular students at high school. The outcasts turn the table on the popular students who made sport of them and prepare for a single night that will leave their tormentors scarred for life. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, but of course when it comes to watching movies here on my channel that I have never seen before, I am now going to go and watch the final from 2010 off camera, so that way if you too decide that you want to watch this movie about revenge finally being taken on a group of bullies, nothing will be spoilt for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie that you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish, and I keep it spoiler free here on my channel.
You're a bad, bad man.
I spent a good few minutes trying to figure out why the actor playing Andy was so familiar looking to me. And I guarantee as well if I pop up this picture here and tell you that this is actually Travis Tedford, aka Spanky from Little Rascals. This was the last movie that he actually made before he retired from acting. And I can't show you what his character looks like in this movie because I have so many questions about who thought that this was a good idea, and now I'm going to have to describe this in YouTube friendly terms. If you are trying to garner sympathy for somebody who was bullied through high school, who in the right mind thought it was a good idea to put this character in a right-wing leaning German political party uniform, complete with armband, because now I'm not feeling any kind of empathy or sympathy and simply asking, what the actual hell?
I want you to think about what you've done.
Imagine asking the big man in the sky for a sign not to sit down and torture your bullies, and when you don't get a response, being like, yay, permission has been granted, it's time to cut off some fingers, because that is this movie. Dean, who is the lead of this group, considers himself to be like some kind of prophet amongst them, and I'm gonna call out a bit of hypocrisy here because I am not religious, not even in the slightest, but I can tell you that in the certain big book that you follow, there's this little something about not killing people in possibly the 10 Commandments. I get that the Bible is neither one way or the other when it comes to torture, but it feels a little bit cherry-picky at this point. Not saying that these kids didn't deserve what they had coming to them, because you can only push someone so far before they snap. And these are the type of kids that grow up into entitled adults that then take it out on retail workers who are simply trying to do their job. But Dane is the poster boy for the incel movement in every possible way, and I just can't get behind that. And then you made him look like Randall from Recess.
And now Randall's right behind us, and he's trying to kill us!
Emily is as sadistic as Dane. She is clearly the only one that is also kind of getting something out of this. These two would be a future serial killer couple. I'm surprised that at one point they didn't start making out, because both of them clearly have the same sadistic kink. And then poor Jack, who is here dressed like a scarecrow, just playing his banjo while all of this goes down. If there were lyrics to his song, it would be something about a tractor or a horse. It's one of those kind of ballads that he keeps playing on a loop.
Banjo moment.
And then you start to look closer at the group of bullies, and immediately something jumps out at me in this, and that is the actor playing Riggs, because Riggs looks like a 30-year-old man amongst a group of 18 to 20-year-olds, and I understand that you can get held back in high school, but I think 12 years might be a bit much. So let's talk actual plot for a minute and say immediately what plot. You get the opening scene and then it jumps back a bunch of years, but what happens to the girl that's in the intro scene is very, very brief in the actual movie, and I will touch on this when I get to talking about the gore and violence part. Then you get a basic kind of setup to discover like who is who, what the social hierarchy is around the school, who's friends with who, and then you get a scene around a campfire, and then after that absolutely everything happens just because it can happen, and the random next door neighbour happened to be in Vietnam, and it's kind of a mess. It's a big mess.
Line up on aisle 4. Larry, Steve, I need one of you.
I do not understand though why Emily decides to go after Bridget. To put it into like a comparison with another very well-known movie, Bridget and Kelly in this group would be a bit like Gretchen and Karen in Mean Girls, and Heather is Regina George, so I do not understand why you would target the two that aren't your main bully and not just take it to Regina George. For a movie that is 18 rated, you really don't see much because everything is either shot from a weird obscured angle or really far away. And the example that I can give is, yes, a girl gets 2 of her fingers cut off at one point, but it is shot from like 10 feet away, and if you aren't paying attention, you're not going to notice that the fingers are actually lying on the floor because that's how far away you are. And then don't even get me started on the acid shaving cream stuff, because this is the thing that I mentioned earlier with Bridget. Bridget gets this weird acid shaving cream stuff smeared on her face, and you get told it's gonna burn away her face and melt it off, and then you see her for like 2 seconds on the floor before somebody grabs her legs and whips her out of shot. So you don't see anything of this. But the highlight is when the neighbour happens to turn up in the middle of the night and triggers a trap outside and gets a plank of wood full of knives straight into the baby maker, because that was hilarious because it was so bad. Is the final good? No, but it is not terrible to look at, so I at least have to give it points for that. Would I voluntarily sit down and rewatch this movie again? Absolutely not. But it is also not the worst thing that I have watched in 2024 by a mile, and that is also saying something. So in the end, I am actually going to give the final from 2010 a 1.5 out of 5 stars, because I like the concept for this movie, but I think that the plot is incredibly weak and it is not executed well at all. And the fact that somebody okayed putting a character in that political uniform is baffling to me. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review for my first time watching The Final from 2010. If you've also seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on this one down in the comment section down below. Are you going to skip this one, or if this is one that you would actually be interested in watching? I will leave a link to justwatch.com, as I always do, in my description bar, so you can find out where it is streaming in your country. Do not spend money on this one is my only advice. Find somewhere that you can stream this one for free and save those pennies to rent something else. And if you would like to know every single horror movie that I watch, not just the ones I talk about here on YouTube, you can also find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror. Links will be in the description bar as well. And maybe even stick around and join the Horde here on YouTube. But I will be back on Friday with another solo movie review, and I, at the time that you are seeing this, do not know what I'll be watching on Friday, because I get back from the US. If you didn't know, I've just spent the past 2 weeks in the US visiting my girlfriend, so you can expect my shelves to be full of stuff that I have picked up that is all Halloween themed. So you will have to come back on Friday and find out what the hell I've picked. So until next time, bye.